The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Darren Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
Ah, yes, let's go indeed, Ian Parker, for our final episode of UFC Best Bets of 2021. You know that place. It's the Apex. We have gotten to know that place very well over the last 2 years. It is the home of many UFC fight nights over 2020, 2021, right across the street from the headquarters. Very, very convenient to have fights there. Hopefully, we will end up taking some fights more on the road in 2022. But for now, the Apex has been a good home for the UFC. It's been a good home for us, Ian Parker. We've had some highs, we've had some lows, but we've had more highs than lows on this betting show so far in 2021. So let's close it out on a high note. How are you feeling about Saturday's final UFC Fight Night card?
I'm looking to close out the year with another winning night. You know, we got a lot of good picks here. Sneaky good card to end the year, especially with this heavyweight banger. So back to the Apex we go. I'm ready.
Yep, as always, we got a whole lot to talk about, but let's look back at UFC 269. It was just last week. It was here in Las Vegas, but not the Apex. It was at T-Mobile Arena. How did we do? We did all right, Ian. We did 3-1 on your best bets, which is always what you want to see. The best bets are the ones that we encourage you guys the most. So that is, of course, the picks that Ian has the most confidence on. We did not get away with our parlay. You know, it looked like Randy Costa was like, man, Randy's going to cost us early on in the night. It was only the second fight of the night. But then Nunes came through and lost, so we can't even be that upset about the parlay. It was dead early, but then, hey, you know, at least we didn't go 2-1, because those are always the hard ones to swallow when you only lose the parlay by one. But we are going to move right along into this UFC Fight Night event. We're going to have a parlay for you. We're going to have best bets. Who knows what else we're going to have? Ian seems to add something to every other show. So let's look at the prelims for this weekend. We've got a pretty stacked, pretty long early prelims. They'll all be on ESPN Plus. Jordan Leavitt versus Matt Sales kicking the night off. Raquel Pennington taking on Macy Chiasson. That is a featherweight fight. That fight's taking place at 145 pounds. Later on in the prelims, you see Sahara Eubanks taking on Melissa Gatto. That's an interesting one. Sahara Eubanks going back down, staying, I guess. Her last fight was at this, but we've seen her have some issues at weight. She is fighting at 125 pounds. It's a 125-pound fight for Eubanks. Ione Barcelos, that's an interesting fight. Barcelos, you see there with the odds, -330, the sport high on him. And then Dustin Stoltzfus taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Both of these guys were supposed to take on someone else, and they don't. They're taking on each other, but we will get to that here in a second. Let's start off with the first one, Ian. We got Jordan Leavitt taking on Matt Sales. Interesting fight to start off the night, and also a very close fight, -110, -110. What do you think of this one?
Oh, for me, this fight favors Jordan Leavitt. In my opinion, I actually really like this pick a lot. For me, Jordan Leavitt, I think, learned a lot in his last fight against Claudio Puelles. You know, that was the first loss of his career, first time really being out-grappled, and he's fighting a guy in Matt Sales who hasn't fought in 2 years, more of a striker. For me, I think Leavitt's fought strikers before, better ones, and well, he's going to get this fight to the ground and do what he does. For me, this is Jordan Leavitt. I'm surprised the odds are actually this low.
Okay, great. So a strong pick to start off the night. Let's move right along to the heavyweight division. Kind of an interesting fight between two guys who are really looking to still kind of make their mark in the UFC. You got Josh Parisian, who came on from the Contender Series. He really hasn't had a super memorable moment since coming on from the Contender Series last year. And you got Dontel Mays, who's 1-1 in the UFC. Has not fought so far in 2021. This is going to be his last chance of getting an appearance, and he will this year, but just barely. He is the big favorite, though, -200. What do you think of this one?
You know, this is one of those interesting ones where if Mays was more of a -175, I'd probably lean his way because of his power. But, you know, at +170, Parisian, who's been the more active fighter, I think he's actually the faster one. If he can get out of the first round, I think he wins this fight. So I'm willing to take a shot on the dog here. I'll go with Parisian at that +170 odds.
All right, I like it. So we got a confident pick in the curtain jerker. Then we got an underdog pick in the second fight. Let's go to the aforementioned featherweight fight between Raquel Pennington and Macy Chiasson. Raquel quietly 3-1 in her last 4, including a win over Irene Aldana that looks real good on paper now, considering what Aldana has done as of late. And you look at Chiasson, of course, she was booked to fight Aspen Ladd. That whole shabacle where Aspen Ladd missed weight. Chiasson didn't want to fight her anymore. You can't blame her, but she does get a fight in before the end of the year. She's taking on Raquel Pennington. She is the underdog at +160. How do you see this one breaking down?
Well, first off, the odds for it to go to a decision are way too high. I don't see either one finishing the other. So if you're willing to lay that juice, I don't mind that play. This one for me, it depends on the Rocky Pennington we're going to see because we've seen a lot of slow starts, her having to come back. But sometimes styles makes fights. I don't mind rolling the dice again on another underdog in Macy Chiasson. If we see the best Macy that we did from like the Ultimate Fighter and some of her earlier wins in the UFC, it's a suffocating clinch game. And if she doesn't allow Rocky to get her boxing off, then Macy could steal this one. So I'm going to roll the dice at plus 160 on Macy. But again, I also think this fight goes the distance.
Okay, moving right along to a 145-pound bout between Charles Jourdain and Andre Ewell. Both two guys who are, again, looking to find their footing in the UFC, about a 50-50 record for both. How do you see this one breaking down?
Man, these fights are tough on this one, Brett. Charles Jourdain at minus 200 is a little high. I'm hoping the odds come down because that's where I would lead in this fight. I think he's the better striker. We saw him fade in that third round, but not many guys come out and do the volume of what Julian Erosa does. Andre Ewell, he's had a little trouble with that fight IQ. It's almost like he hasn't found himself. Maybe this new weight, he'll be better, but I expect this fight to be on the feet where Jourdain is the better striker, so I would go with Charles Jourdain here.
Okay, potential for some highlights there. I mean, I think Charles Jourdain has he's given us some memorable moments in the octagon. We'll see if he can provide another one on Saturday. Let's go to Sahara Eubanks versus Melissa Gatto. Again, Eubanks, she's been good at flyweight when she makes it, man, but her struggles to get there have been well documented. She's taken on Melissa Gatto out of Brazil. This is just her second fight in the UFC. Eubanks minus 170. What are we doing with this one?
You know what? I agree. The weight has been trouble for her, and I haven't heard anything yet of where it's been tough, if she's even getting close to making it. So, I think this is one of those, I don't mind the Gatto play, but again, both women are not big finishers. Eubanks has had her opportunities when top position. I think it's going to be a struggle for her to get Gatto down so easily. So for me, the play here is that this fight goes to a decision. I don't see either one, whoever wins, finishing it. So we're going to go with the safer play on that one.
Okay, the odds have been pretty close so far, but that's about to change here with these next two fights. The first one's at heavyweight, Justin Tafa taking on Harry Hunsucker. Tafa 1-3 in the UFC, but he is a minus 330 favorite against Harry Hunsucker, who, if we're just being honest, Ian, this guy hasn't completely proven that he belongs in the UFC yet. He lost his fight on the Contender Series. He ended up getting into the UFC anyway, and now he's 0-1 in the UFC. Does this guy belong, or are the odds correct in that Tafa, even though he's 1-3 in the UFC, is going to have an easy time with this one?
Yes and no. I agree with you on Hunsucker. I don't know if this is the right level for him. My money is on that this does not go past 1.5 rounds. Hunsucker's got terrible cardio. They're both going to throw to try and knock each other out. So whoever falls, my bet under 1.5.
Okay, moving right along to the 135-pound division. Like I said, Ioni Barcelos, it just shows, man, how this sport is so crazy. This guy is a promising prospect. He's coming off a majority loss to Timur Valiev. And had he won that fight, I think we'd be seeing him in a much more high-profile spot. Instead, he's on the prelims here, taking on kind of an unknown in Victor Henry. The odds reflect that. It's minus 330 against Barcelos. What do you think of this guy as a prospect, and what do you think of him as a minus 330 favorite this weekend?
Prospect, yes. I think he still has a very high ceiling here. We haven't seen the best of Barcelos yet. The reason why he's also such a favorite is Henry coming into your point, an unknown, also taking this fight on very short notice. I just think that Barcelos, at those odds, you can't take him straight, so we're going to go to our props. TKO or KO at plus money. He'll be the faster, better striker, and he's fought higher level competition. So let's get some plus money out of the big favorite.
Yeah, and decent plus money too, plus 175. Okay, wrapping up the early prelims, you got Dustin Stolfitz taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Dustin Stolfitz, hasn't had a lot of success in the UFC, but the matchmakers have done him no favors, man. This guy has fought some very good competition. He fought Rodolfo Vieira. We know how good that guy is, how difficult of a style matchup he is, and then Kyle Dawkins. Two guys who are just tough to take on early on in your UFC career. Gerald Meerschaert, of course, veteran, had his highs and lows. He comes in as the minus 230 favorite here in the final prelim. What say you, Ian, on this one?
I think Gerald is even uncomfortable being such a favorite. He loves being that massive underdog and getting these wins from behind. For me, I think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I think Stoltz is going to come out aggressive, and Gerald's just going to have to weather the storm as usual, probably come back in the second round and get the win. And I think Stoltz, as long as he stays away from Gerald's guillotine, I think he'll be okay there. So for us, we're going to go with over 1.5 rounds at minus 162. Why not?
All right, yeah, why not? And that will conclude the prelims of this final UFC Fight Night. Let's get straight to the main card. Here she is, a 6-fight main card taking place on ESPN Plus to wrap up the year. Of course, in the main event, you got Derrick Lewis taking on Chris Daukaus, who is undefeated in the UFC, looking to take a big step up in the rankings here. He would do so with a win over Derrick Lewis. Stephen Thompson sneaking in here before the end of the year. He actually headlined the final card of last year. So Stephen Thompson making a habit of fighting right before Christmas. You got Amanda Lemus taking on Angela Hill. Rafael Assunção, this is his first fight of 2021, I believe, taking on Ricky Simon. Diego Ferreira, Mateus Gamrot, Cub Swanson, Darren Elkins. And that is where we will start our analysis. Ian, Cub Swanson versus Darren Elkins. Cub coming in here at -200 against Elkins, who has cashed in these spots before. Does he cash on Saturday as a +170?
This is such a tough fight to cap, and this is why it's not part of our best bets. But look, you got a guy in Cub Swanson who has seen it all, been through it all, fought everybody under the sun. His last fight against Gija Chikaze, that was a tough loss for him. Obviously, Darren Elkins isn't going to bring that level of striking, but what he will bring is the cardio, that wrestling. He can absorb damage, as his nickname. For me, is Cub able to finish this fight? Because if he doesn't, I don't know if he wins. I think that Darren Elkins has the ability to tire guys out by letting them essentially beat them senseless until they're tired, and Elkins wrestling and just suffocating control. I'm going to roll the underdog here at +170 with Darren Elkins. We've seen him do it time and time again, and I think, he knows where he's got to win here. He's got to close the distance and wrap up Cub, and we've seen Cub fall to that before, so I'm going to go with Elkins here.
I like it, man. I feel like we are going heavy on the underdogs to close out 2021. We'll see if that trend continues here in this one. Diego Ferreira came into 2021 looking for a breakthrough year, man. He was right on the cusp of breaking into the rankings in a way in which he had never has in his career. It didn't happen for him. He's lost to Beneil Dariush, 0-2 this year in 2021. Taking on a guy in Mateus Gamrot, who I think that this situation kind of opens up for Gamrot to make a statement, right? I think people are looking at him to say, hey, how good is this guy? If he can beat Diego Ferreira, that'll tell us something about him. The odds reflect that, -190 to Diego Ferreira, +160. Where are you going with this one?
I think this is an excellent matchup for Gamrot, especially finding a guy in the top 15 with as big a name as Diego Ferreira, who has fought Beneil Dariush, then has lost to Gregor Gillespie. For me, Diego Ferreira is going to come out in that first round where he's most dangerous. The first 5 to 7 minutes, his striking, he's powerful. He's also got good jiu-jitsu. However, where he seems to struggle the most is against guys with better cardio, top position wrestlers, and Gamrot just screams out. The guy's got dynamite in his hands. He's got a submission game to him. And unless Ferreira rocks Gamrot early, which we haven't seen yet, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. For me, this is Gamrot's time to shine and break through. I love Gamrot in this spot, even at -190.
Loves him. Loves Gamrot at -190. And like I said, the sport is high on this guy, a 31-year-old fighting out of Poland. A big opportunity for him to, again, beat a veteran in Diego Ferreira and then possibly make a leap in the rankings himself next year. Let's move on to 135 pounds, man. Rafael Assunção. This guy has been doing it for a very, very long time. I mean, we just saw Dominic Cruz with a throwback performance last weekend. Rafael Assunção, one of those guys who it feels like, WEC days, all through the UFC days, this guy has just been here. He has been consistent up in these rankings. But is it time for someone to bounce him out? And I think that that is the question going into this fight with Ricky Simon. He is 6-2 in the UFC. He slipped on a banana peel. I shouldn't say it that way. I want to give Uriah Faber full credit, but he lost to Uriah Faber, then he lost to Rob Font. But other than that, he's been very, very good. Again, 6-2 in the UFC, a guy who I think a lot of us have been and continue to be high on. He is -280 against the veteran and Rafael Assunção. Not very often you're seeing Assunção at +230. Do the odds makers go too hard on Ricky Simon, or are you taking Simon in this one?
They may have a little bit. I still like Ricky here. I think his striking is better than Assunção. I think he's faster. That wrestling game and that cardio, he's just so overwhelming with that pressure. And Assunção, though, was dangerous off his back with jiu-jitsu, but we don't really see Ricky Simon getting subbed out ever. He got caught by Faber. Font was just a better striker here. I think that Simon, this is just the right litmus test for him with the right name to get on his resume to get him back in there. I do agree there's still a high ceiling on him because he has all the tools and he fights pretty intelligently. So for me, I do like Ricky Simon. I don't like him at -280. That one's a little tough to swallow. So I like Ricky Simon to win here by decision. Assunção's a tough guy to put away unless he sends him to the shadow realm like Cody Garbrandt did, which doesn't happen really ever to Assunção. I like Ricky to win by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the line is probably a little bit inflated, but not enough to make me want to put any money on a Sunsound. Not that he hasn't proven us wrong in the past, but Simone, this is a big opportunity for him, man. He wins this. There's a lot of talk about 135, right? We're talking about all these guys coming up, the different things happening at 135. A lot of people would agree it's the most exciting division in the UFC right now. Haven't been saying Ricky Simone's name amongst all of those top ones, but if he wins this one, he's going to insert himself in those conversations in 2022. Okay, let's move on to the next one. It's a strawweight fight between Amanda Lemus and Angela Hill. Angela Hill really going the Cowboy Cerrone route, Ian. This is her 7th fight since the beginning of 2020. The last 6 of those have gone to decision. So she has put in her dues. She has spent a lot of time inside the octagon. Amanda Lemus, not as much. When she gets in there, she's finishing fights. She's 4-1 in the UFC. 3 of those, she's got first round finishes in. The odds, like her, I believe she is the biggest favorite on the entire card, minus 360 against all action, all consistency, she's fighting every weekend, Angela Hill. I'll ask you again, are the odds inflated here, or is Lemus the real deal?
I think she's the real deal. But, again, odds, I do agree, are inflated. She is fighting arguably the highest level competition yet that she's faced in the UFC. Angela Hill has gotten better. The whole Cowboy Cerrone route, I think, is not always the best move for certain fighters. I know she wants to get in there, and sometimes opportunity strikes. For me, I don't see the upside in Angela Hill taking this fight. For me, I do agree this fight goes to a decision, though. I think this will be the first time that Lemos is going to fight someone that just isn't going to lay down for her and be intimidated. Angela Hill has fought everybody, seen it all, a good striker in her own right. So we're going to see Lemos tested by someone who is, up there, should be there. So for me, I do like Lemos to win, but I think this fight goes to a decision.
Okay. Ian likes the 115-pound fights who go the full 15. Let's move to this co-main event. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, 16-5-1, taking on Bilal Muhammad, 19-3. Thompson, of course, coming off of that loss to Gilbert Burns. Bilal Muhammad, man, still has not lost since January of 2019. But we have a long track record. We have a lot of film to look back on. And this is the type of fight that Stephen Thompson usually wins, right? I mean, there's nothing really that Bilal Muhammad does necessarily that really should stymie the offense of Stephen Thompson. But at some point, you can't just go by that. But the odds are reflecting that. Minus 220 for Wonderboy, plus 180 for Bilal Muhammad. Does Bilal have the skills to make this an uncomfortable fight for Wonderboy, or have we just seen this story play out too much with this style matchup?
You know what we saw in the last fight with Wonderboy and Gilbert Burns? There's a path to victory against Wonderboy that we've been talking about for a while, and Bilal Muhammad has that style. He's a wrestler first. He's position over submission, so if he can close the distance and get the fight to the floor and hold Stephen there and maintain position, get those punches and grind it out, he does have a path to victory. Now, that's easier said than done, as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has fought guys that, Tyron Woodley at his best when he tried to take him down. Gilbert was the first person, I think, that got Wonderboy down for 3 rounds, held him there. Stephen will be the better striker. He's going to use that kick, those angles. But for me, I'm not picking a side in this fight, Brett, because both guys in their last, 10 fights were finished 1 time. Both guys don't really have that finishing style anymore. I think also this is a big moment for both guys. For Bilal Muhammad, for him to get to that next level, get to that top 7, top 5, beat a true top-level ranked fighter. That whole Leon Edwards fight was a mess, obviously due to the injury and all that stuff. And for Stephen Thompson, it's a win against a top 10 guy who he needs to get back in the win column after that last fight. So for me, this fight goes the distance at minus 250. Now, that goes against what I talk about all the time about betting this number. So I'm just going to say it early. We are going to put this in our parlay. I just don't see either guy getting finished. They're just not who they are. Also, both very durable fighters.
Well, I mean, your analysis is spot on, Ian, because you don't even give me an opportunity to ask you a follow-up. I was going to say, minus 250, are we taking that straight, or are we going to try to find a way to lessen the blow a little bit? Because I agree with you, especially on the part where this is a big moment for both guys. Stephen Thompson coming off of that loss. I think myself and a lot of people would love to see him fight Kamaru Usman, just because he does have that different style, which I would love to see how Kamaru navigates his way through the striking of Wonderboy, but he's got to win this fight. If he is going to force that title fight next year, this is a must-win for him. And Bilal, like I said, man, has not lost since January of 2019, but he's not been close to a title fight either. So this is a big, big win for him. Not that I'm saying that will make them fight cautiously, but I think that they will be limiting their mistakes, right? Especially after Thompson was just out-wrestled in his last fight. He doesn't want to get out of position. Bilal Muhammad knows how dangerous Thompson can be with a one-shot knockout power. I think both of these guys will do some things in this fight to run out a little bit of the clock. So we are going to get to the main event, but I believe that we are going to get to your parlay first. You are not including the main event in your parlay. You are including the co-main event in your parlay, so why don't you head and reveal that to us now?
We're going to start off with Hani Barcelos taking that fight on his opponent, taking the fight on short notice, just better everywhere. We're going to get that minus 330. Amanda Lemos, as we discussed, I think she wins this fight. Even if it goes to a decision, doesn't matter. Better striker, just fighting a veteran. Ricky Simone, now we just need him to win. And last but not least, again, this fight goes to the distance with Muhammad and Stephen Thompson. That's going to round up the parlay at 2-1. So I like it.
Yeah, a lot of chalky plays on that, but hey, the end result is a 2-1, so we will take it on a 4-teamer parlay. Okay, let's get to this main event. Pretty close odds, man. Chris Daukaus fighting in his first UFC main event. He's 12-3. He's going to be a minus 135 favorite against Derrick Lewis, who's 25-8. He comes back at plus 115. Of course, the last time we saw Derrick Lewis, he was in there against Ciryl Gane, fighting for an interim championship in his hometown. It did not go his way. He was very unhappy with that performance. He's eager to get back in there. Lewis, man. First, Ian, this guy, how do you... I would think that as a handicapper, Lewis would be one of the most frustrating guys to handicap. Is that correct? And how are you trying to do it this weekend?
Oh, he's a nightmare. He's a nightmare. He cost me a ton of money with Curtis Blades. Every time you think he's going to get taken down and grinded out, he comes back and he knocks him out. He's got that power. Look, I think the odds, though, should be flip-flopped here. I'm a little thrown off. Daukaus has never fought in the spotlight, never did a 5-rounder, never fought this level of competition. It's almost like, is the opportunity correct, or is he biting off more than he can chew? Derrick Lewis has been there. Derrick Lewis's athleticism, I believe, is underrated. We've seen his takedown defense get better, and we know the type of power he can carry. Gane's the first guy that I think even TKO'd him, and God knows how long. So for me, this is a really interesting fight. We've seen Daukaus, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not even use it. I don't think if I didn't do my research, I wouldn't even have known that. So for me, the question is this too much, too quick? Is he one of those prospects that are just being thrown in there because the opportunity was there and the space was available? If I had to take a side, I would probably lean Lewis based on the underdog value, based on the level of competition, and we know his power. If he can keep the fight standing, I think he wins. Daukaus, I think he's going to try and take this fight to the ground. That'd be smart. But for our bet-wise, under 2.5 rounds, we haven't seen Daukaus really touch the second round that much. We know what Lewis can do. This fight is not going to be a grapple fest, so someone's going to sleep in under 2.5 rounds.
Okay, under 2.5 and minus 175. As you mentioned, Ian, I don't think you're the only one that is kind of learning about Chris Daukaus on the fly. We all know about Derrick Lewis. This guy, everybody knows what Lewis is bringing to the table, knows what his strengths are, his weaknesses, the whole 9 yards. With Daukaus, he's had 4 fights in the UFC, but this main event spot is coming. I think it was a little bit of a surprise to some people. We didn't think. I did not have Chris Daukaus written down as a guy that I thought would be headlining the final card of 2021. So as you continue to do, as you said, some research on this guy, just tell us a little bit about Chris and how the betting market has viewed him so far. Has he been overinflated? Has he been underrated? And how that might compare to what we're seeing this weekend?
He's been, valued pretty well. That last fight was in Volkanovski on the Ortega card. You and I discussed that we were there. We thought that, there was some bright spots there with that knockout. However, we also saw he was taking a lot of punishment. He trusts his chin a lot. Sometimes when you get these prospects, man, they get rushed, especially in the division with not a ton of depth, right? So as you saw, Parker Porter, minus 120. The Nascimento fight was another time he was a big underdog. That was interesting because people thought Nascimento could take him to the ground. Didn't happen. Alexei Oleinik. Look, Daukaus used that takedown defense, lit him up. We know Oleinik's not the best striker. And against Shamil, what do we say about Shamil? Either he lands it, but does really poorly against power strikers, which Daukaus does with his pressure. But none of those guys are level of competition of Derrick Lewis. So either this is an opportunity that he's manifested or he's biting off more than he can chew. Either way, we're going to see someone, I'm telling you, someone's going to sleep pretty quick.
Yeah, well, we are going to find out something about Chris Daukaus one way or another on Saturday. And again, it happens on ESPN Plus. It is the final UFC fight night of 2021. There it is, the prelims start at 4 p.m. Eastern. Number 3 ranked Derrick Lewis, who says if he wins this fight, he'd like to maybe fight Stipe Miocic next, and Chris Daukaus. Number 7 already, just a 4-0 record in the UFC, but he's number 7. He takes out number 3, and we're going to be talking about this guy a lot in 2022. But we have gone through every fight on the card, so now all that's left is your best bets. Ian, take it away.
Starting off with Jordan Levitt, the jiu-jitsu, level of competition, and his opponent's inactivity. I like him at -110. Gamrot, bad style matchup for Diego Ferreira. I like his wrestling, I like his power, and I like his fight IQ. Ricky Simone, I just too much pressure, overwhelm of Javier Assunção. However, Assunção was tough to put away, so a +120 by decision. Last but not least, that main event, we're going to go Lewis Daukaus under 2.5 rounds due to the knockout power of both men. And last but not least, let's try and hit that lottery for the end of the year, my man. We're going to hit that big parlay. Let's go.
Well, let's go. What is it, man? I mean, these lotto parlays, we don't always say that we're expecting these to hit, but man, what a fun thing to throw $10 on the day and have action all card long. So go ahead, man. Take it away. Tell us what we're playing and how much we stand to win here this weekend.
At almost plus 17,000 on your money. And I laughed because that's such an awesome number if you hit it. Derrick Lewis, Gamrot, Darren Elkins, Melissa Gatto, Jourdain, Parisian, Jordan Levitt. So we got fights across the entire card. You hit this, happy holidays.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I mean, I think I speak for all gamblers that every win feels good, but that one, that's plus 17,000 odds. That would feel pretty darn good to finish off 2022. But either way, we are finished off in 2022. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, the analysis all year long. Of course, we will be right back. January 15th is the first UFC fight night of next year. But until then, enjoy the fights this weekend, enjoy the holidays, enjoy the new year, and we will see you in 2022. Take care.